Welcome to High Gluttony. I'm Gretchen.
And I'm Becca, and we're two ladies on an adventure. Listen along every 10 days or so as we cook a dish we like,
Quest about cannabis education,
or chat with someone we respect.
You can find more information about this episode at highgluttony.com.
Thanks for joining us, Gluttoneers.
Off we go. Let's get to it.
This is a big one for us today, Gretchen. How are you feeling before we get going on our adventure?
I think this is a bit more adventure than I was anticipating, and it's a big adventure week for me. I also am getting ready to have my spay surgery this week. Yes, people, I am spaying myself.
Oh, we don't know where the cats end and Gretchen begins.
Somewhere there might be a differentiation someplace in between those two, but anyway,
yeah. So what's happened? Tell me more about this.
As you know, and I think we might have brought up briefly before that this was happening, but then things got thrown all into chaos. So this is my second attempt to get this done this fall, and so I'm having a salpingectomy, I think is how it's pronounced, an entire fallopian tube removal. And I am torturing myself leading up to that by not smoking, because they did suggest, since they do have to be intubated for the surgery, that if you can take it easy on the smoking for a couple weeks beforehand, it'll make things safer. So I figure, all right, I'll be safe and cut back on the smoking. So I've been eating. Last weekend, I made a bunch of marshmallows. MELLOWS. So I've been eating those all week. They are very mild. So I've had like 4 today. I'm feeling okay right now. I could be higher, but I am going to drink my cocktail here that has a little bit of weed infused vodka in it.
That sounds great. I'm so excited for you, first of all. I am so excited. This will be such a nice thing for you. Never have to think again about any chance of getting pregnant. Fucking finally, relief.
Sticking it to the patriarchy by taking myself off the market as far as having babies.
Exactly.
The whole point.
Well, it's the whole point, yeah.
And societal pressure and the patriarchy and expectation and people that ask me when I'm going to have kids. You all can get off my back now because it's never happening.
Not an option. Yeah. Next time someone asks you, just direct them to this episode.
Yeah. So preparing myself mentally for that. Since it's something I've pretty much wanted to do my entire life. I've never wanted children. And, of course, I still have those little doubts of like, what if I do want to have a kid at some point? The good news is what I did find out is that you can get pregnant after having a tubal ligation surgery if you do IVF. So it's just a lot more expensive and a lot riskier as far as like getting the pregnancy to take. But since I don't foresee me wanting to spend money on that ever, it seems fine.
Yes, long time coming.
Mm-hmm. So what exciting thing is happening with you this week?
Well, nothing as exciting as that, but I did discover I might have a secret talent in axe throwing.
What?
I know. What? So James and I went to a Renaissance festival last weekend, and we're totally confused the whole time, to be honest. I could not really figure out what was going on. We went during the daytime. I think we probably should have gone back drunk, stoned at night, and just been like taking it all in. Anyway, we stumbled on this little like vendor that had axe throwing, and you could buy, it was like $5 for 5 throws. And there was a little wooden big round, not little, it was a big round wooden like target, like tree base cut out. Yeah. So I step up, James is like, you go first. I'm like, okay, there's all these people watching. I'm super nervous, but I'll just go. And I go, and it lands right in the center. And I got 4 out of 5. I will take it. Yeah.
That's pretty amazing. And a weird talent to like just randomly discover in your 30s, but
late 30s. Yeah. James was like, okay, well, now you know your weapon of choice if we are in a zombie apocalypse.
I'll bring the hatchets.
Yeah, it's hard to know what that's always going to be, but you've got your hatchet. I got the axe. We'll see what his is going to be. But yeah, it was fun. It was super fun. I had a crisis, of course, about being around people and eating and having my mask off for even like 1 second of time. But that's nothing new.
Yeah, you mean the crisis I have nearly every fucking day.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because I have to work around people. I wonder if it's worse for you just because you don't have to go be around people all day. And like, since I do, I've sort of adjusted to it a little bit, but I still get a little bit weird. But to me, like anywhere you're outside it's a lot better than being inside. So I do try and calm myself when I'm in outdoor situations. Being indoors with people right now is tripping me out though.
I bet.
I don't like this.
Yeah. I also, because James and I moved in May 2020 from San Francisco to Salt Lake, and we did not know a single person in Salt Lake. So legitimately from May 2020 until 2 weeks ago, I didn't see anyone I knew besides James. And I think just like mentally, I have to prepare myself for like being around people again. And I love being around people sometimes. And so that I was like ready. I like wanted that energy. I was so pumped. And I was like, I want an ice cream cone. I'm taking my mask off and this is great. And then like 5 minutes into it, I was like, oh no, oh no, oh no. And then for like the whole week after, I was like, oh, what if I get sick? What if I get sick? What did I do? Was that worth it? And then I'm like, oh my God. Why can't I just do one thing?
Not to freak you out further, but I feel like I should take you further down this path and then bring you back the other way in a minute. But my coworker did get a pretty gnarly like COVID infection recently, and she's vaccinated and very careful. And so like her entire family had it. She's got 2 small kids. Luckily, the kids for the most part seemed like they had symptoms for a few days and it went away, and she's sounding better. But yeah, it's so hard to know. So that freaked me out because I was like, oh my gosh, she like doesn't do anything, and like it still was able to get her. Like that's most of the people I know that have been exposed. It's like they're not out there being wild. It just happens.
Right.
So
wow. Oh my gosh. We like I've been so excited for this episode all day, and now we're both like super bummed out.
Like, wait, there was supposed to be a good thing behind that. What was I gonna say that was good? She got sick and she got better?
Oh, oh man.
But if you're vaccinated, you're 11 times less likely to die. So I gotta say, it's yeah, maybe you'll get sick, but way less likely that it's gonna be serious. So,
Yeah. I don't want it like at all.
Yeah, I think it was okay. It was an acceptable risk, and luckily nothing happened. But
I know
anxiety, it's a hell of a drug,
Yeah, let's like get out of this little. I'm excited. Recap. I have good axe throwing skills, and you are having something done that you've been wanting for a really long time. So like,
yes.
Blah 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 blah. Other stuff. Those are the most important things. Those are the most. We're like both super excited about those things.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, I can't wait to go out and just hoe it up afterwards.
Everything about you will change, I'm sure. I'm
Everything.
Totally sure. Yeah.
Yeah. That thing about me basically being celibate, that won't even be a factor anymore.
So what are you smoking? We need to get back to it. What are you smoking today while we embark on our adventure?
I have some marshmallows that I've enjoyed. And then I am having a little bit of infused vodka in my alcoholic beverage because I am trying to give my lungs a break. What are you smoking?
Because I have some really fun options around me now, I'm trying for the first time a heavy hitter disposable vape pen, which has 100% of the native terpenes and contains up to 95% THC. And I don't know what that means. I mean, I think we've said like 95% is like percent to total when it's presented that way.
Yes. Yeah. Still, basically all THC in there with some terpenes.
So it is very enjoyable. It's very pleasant. It's a sativa. So I'm like jamming. Yeah.
Nice.
But I'm feeling relaxed too. So I'm very much enjoying that. And you said you're having your marshmallow and then a vodka infused with with cannabis, or what was the liquor?
Yes. Yeah, it's vodka. And I've had 3 or 4 marshmallows today. So I've been staggering them over a few hours. I wanted to kind of get ramped up and get going. So yeah, I'm on number 4. I might have number 5 before we actually get into the cooking part. Maybe I just need to stop now. I've had a few of them. That might be too much sugar, really.
How big are they?
They're pretty big. They're like 2 inches a square, 2-inch cube. It's a good size.
Legit marshmallow.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious about this cocktail you're making, but what exactly is happening with this cocktail? And I see a note on here, and so I'm very excited to hear about the toasted component.
I'm coming up with a cocktail for the launch of our new website at work. And actually, I'm coming up with 3 different cocktails because we are now featuring Pontiac, Buick, and Oldsmobile parts.
In addition to Cadillac. Gretchen works for a place that supplies Cadillac parts. It's very interesting.
And now we're expanding, and we have a new website, and was inspired for a cocktail for the Pontiac part by doing it for a Pontiac GTO Judge that was this badass orange. And so the drink I think that I'm going to create later will be gin and toasted orange. And so I'm working on the bruleeing of the orange slice was really what I was trying to do. So I started with just regular orange slice, tried to brulee, couldn't get any real browning on it because the moisture kept coming out and liquefying the sugar, so it wouldn't brown really. And I did a few layers of sugar, so that was like, all right. So I dried off one like in a paper towel and let it sit for a second to dry off a little bit, and then did it on that one. And that one I had much more success with the brulee. My technique on that is coming along. So right now I'm having that toasted orange slice with vodka, and I put in some black pepper, thyme, and a little bit of fresh squeezed orange juice and a little water. And then I have a cannabis infused vodka. So I'm doing half potato vodka and half of a different type of vodka that is infused with cannabis. It's a lot.
It's a lot. Of course you're doing all of that. It's toasted and toasted. The toasted cannabis and the toasted oranges.
Yes. I hadn't thought about that. Excellent point.
It sounds so good. And spoiler alert, I've already seen some of the bruleed orange slices, and they're fucking beautiful. They're so
Very
pretty.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. What are you drinking?
Just vodka and lemonade.
Gretchen, what are you doing? This super complicated cocktail. What are you drinking, Becca? Vodka and lemonade.
Nope, I didn't even make the lemonade. It's just a glass jar.
It's like, and I wonder why I don't have time to do anything. I might be answering my own question here. Because Gretchen, you're extra.
So we've mentioned vodka a lot. This is a big potato episode for us.
We felt it was time we weighed in on the mashed potato debate. I think it's high time. We're coming up on our second holiday season.
We made Duchess potatoes last year. We made a butternut squash mash kind of ish thing too. And I've been craving just like classic mashed potatoes. And you, I know, love mashed potatoes. So we're calling this the Great Potato Mash-Off.
So Becca, what is your potato philosophy? What sort of mashed potatoes do you like?
If we're talking about mashed potatoes, for me, I want it as smooth as possible. I want it as white as possible. I don't want to see any chunks. I don't want to see any peels. I don't even want black pepper on mine. I want it to be just like a cloud of white. And I like it to be a little bit thicker. Not like super, super, super thick, but pretty healthy.
Fluffy. You want them fluffy. Yeah. Well, hopefully we can make that happen for you today. I'm less picky. I'm like, if it's a potato and it's mashed and it has fat on it, I'm going to eat it. Any kind of fat. Duck fat? Yes. Turkey fat? Probably. Beef fat? For sure. A little bacon grease? Ooh, yeah. Butter? Butter's the classic. I love potatoes with the skin in. I'm not sure like I go for really like additional other things in, but I do like a mash with skin. And I don't know if that's just partly because I know that the skin's the healthiest part. It's where most of the nutrient is, or if that's just something I have always liked, that like change in texture. I'm not that picky. I've rarely had a potato I don't like.
That's a fair point. I mean, they're very delicious. Do you like gravy on your mashed potatoes?
Of course.
I don't always want gravy. Sometimes most often I just want mashed potato. Yeah. Very rarely do I want the gravy. I prefer gravy with a roll. I like to rip a piece of a roll and dip it into the gravy. And I'd much rather allocate my gravy to that than put it on my potato. I'll put more butter and some Parmesan on my potato.
I can't argue with either of those. I mean, I always liked it, and I was a kid doing, if we had just leftover gravy, getting like a piece of bread and soaking the piece of bread in the gravy. So I totally see where you're coming from on that. Like, that's one of my favorite things of all time.
If you're just making mashed potatoes, what world level would you say that is?
As long as you have a recipe that you can rely on and you're not trying to get too fancy or do any experiments, I say it's a world level 1 or 2, probably 2, just because it does take a little bit of effort, but not that much. And having the right equipment helps.
Sure. World level 1 to 2, having the right equipment, which we'll talk about in just a second. But what steps are we talking about when you're making mashed potatoes?
So when it comes down to it, it's just boil potatoes, dry potatoes out a little bit, mashed potatoes.
2 steps if you want it to be.
Yeah, but there's not a lot to it.
Perfect. That's what we like, except for we, of course, are not going to leave it at one dish. And as Gretchen said, we wanted to weigh in on what does the best mashed potato mean for us. So we're not just doing 1 today. We're doing 3 each. What are we thinking?
So we're doing 4 total recipes. Let's make this clear. We're both each making a recipe that Becca chose, as well as a recipe that I chose.
So we're making 2 of the same.
2 of the same.
Different, but those are different recipes.
Yes. And then we're each doing a totally different 3rd recipe for our own reference. Now, we are having some consistent experiments going across the board here. With the recipe that Becca chose, we're going to use Yukon Gold potatoes for the mashing. The one that I chose, which is from Serious Eats, we're using russet potatoes. And then each of us is using a combo of potatoes for our 3rd one, the wild card, as we keep calling it.
Yes. So real quick, those recipes are from my list: a Williams-Sonoma buttermilk chive recipe, which we were both really excited about the buttermilk component of that one. We are both making from Gretchen's list the Serious Eats Kenji Lopez ultra fluffy mashed potatoes, which has about 2 pages of information about why he specifically made all of the decisions he did in this recipe, and then 2 steps. So we're both making those, buttermilk and Kenji's ultra fluffy. And then Gretchen on her own is making the best mashed potatoes from Gimme Some Oven. And this one also has cream cheese.
So this is my cheese component. I don't often do cheese in my mashed potatoes, so that'll be a little bit different, especially cream cheese. I'm kind of excited about this one. And that the recipe actually suggested a half and half Yukon Gold russet potato combo. So that's why we're both going to do that, is so that we can kind of see, okay, Yukon Gold, russet mixture, and have a definite answer at the end of this.
Yes. So Gretchen's doing that one again, the Gimme Some Oven best mashed with cream cheese. And then the one I'm doing on my own is from Better Homes and Garden. And it is a Gruyere and garlic mashed potato. I was super excited about the Gruyere. I've put that in often in the past. And of course, today I couldn't get any Gruyere. So I'm doing Swiss, which I've never done before. I figured I would try something new if I couldn't get what I wanted. So Gretchen and I are both doing something new as far as cheese goes. And that's our 3rd one, wild card. I hope that makes sense. I think that makes sense.
So there will be pictures and a blog post to go along with this episode that will lay this out much more clearly than we can describe it, I am sure.
Exactly.
I think it makes a lot more sense in writing, because you definitely had to write it down for us to be like, okay, this is exactly what we're doing. So.
Seriously. And we'll explain in more detail some of the more nuances, in particular, as you would expect with Kenji's recipe. But the Gretchen's Gimme Some Oven one is like 6 steps, and every other one is 2 to 3. So we're kind of flabbergasted by that too. Of course, Gretchen picks the one with the most steps possible.
Very drawn out.
We're trying to be organized today. Bear with us. We're going to do the best we can. And you had mentioned that some special equipment can really help. And we're both utilizing that today. So what does that special equipment look like?
Looks like a potato racer. or a food mill. That's what it looks like. Or in the case of this, you're using potato ricer and I'm using food mill because I can't find my potato ricer right now.
Food mill and food ricer are really gonna help.
Yes. Yeah, they're the main things you want for this. Otherwise, it's just pots and a spatula or wooden spoon, depending on the recommendation of the recipe. Yeah, I think that's it.
Okay.
Really pot, pan, spoon.
Pot, pan, spoon. Okay. Colanders, I think we mentioned, and then
Colanders.
a peeler.
And a peeler.
Yeah.
If you feel like it. Because if you are putting it through a potato ricer or food mill, you don't actually have to peel. And I did not peel my potatoes for my Give Me Some Oven recipe because she didn't say I had to.
Exactly. Are we ready? We're going to go boil some potatoes?
Yeah, we're going to go get some potatoes on to boil. Oh, are we not staggering them then?
Oh. Well, we still can stagger the start time.
Right. Okay, I'm going to start with my Give Me Some Oven potatoes then.
That's the mix, right?
Yes, because that's the one that has to dry.
Okay, I'll do that one
in the pot.
And that one is I don't have that one. So for you, is that bring to a boil and leave at a boil until their potatoes are cooked?
Well, that's how I'm doing it.
All right.
I'm a rebel. Ooh, my cocktail has become really nicely infused with the pepper that I threw in there. It's very tasty.
Yum.
And I like the burnt orange. Ooh, ooh, ooh.
Should I read out the ingredients for each one?
Yeah.
Okay. Because we should also note all of our water is salted, correct?
Correct. I'll start Williams-Sonoma next, and then we'll do Kenji. Because we can start the Williams-Sonoma one and then rinse the Kenji potatoes.
Buttermilk second.
So I just started a timer so that I can turn on the next one in 5 minutes.
All right. My wild card again is the Better Homes and Garden Gruyere with garlic. This one is 3.5 pounds of potatoes peeled and cut into 2-inch chunks, 1/2 cup whole milk, half and half or light cream, and I'm using whole milk. I wish I'd got light cream for a further comparison, but oh well. Then for our solid dairy, we've got 1/4 cup of butter, no specification on salted or unsalted, and 1.5 cups of shredded Gruyere or Swiss. So again, I'm using Swiss. And then 2 cloves of garlic minced and only 1/4 teaspoon of salt and an 1/8 teaspoon of pepper, which I will probably not use the pepper. So this will be my half russet, half Yukon Gold.
All right. So my wild card, Give Me Some Oven best mashed potatoes. Original recipe calls for 5 pounds of potatoes, and she does recommend half Yukon Gold, half russet, 1 cup of whole milk, 6 tablespoons of butter, 4 ounces of cream cheese, 2 large cloves of garlic, and other toppings like fresh chives, green onion, or cracked black pepper, and sea salt to go in it. And the original recipe just called to have the garlic thrown into the potatoes afterwards, but I'm actually using 3 cloves of garlic and cooking them with the potatoes in the mix.
You're putting it in the water, in the boiling
water. Yes, yeah, because I like that flavor that you get with letting that really infuse. And actually, they've been sitting on the stove for a while, so they should even have more garlic infusion. It'll be exciting.
I'm so excited. I've never heard of that. I can't wait to see how it comes out or hear how it comes out.
Yeah.
And then again, hers was peeled or unpeeled to your preference.
Right.
On the potato skin.
Correct. And the main things with this is that she put in so many steps. But she did cutting the potatoes as a step. So none of the other recipes really counted that as a step. They just recommend put that into the ingredient list. Then she put in boil the potatoes, starting in cold water with salt, with a specific 1 inch above the potatoes, blah, 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 blah. Do this. Way too many instructions about fucking boiling potatoes. Boiling potatoes, for fuck's sake. And I didn't peel mine because we're going to put it through the food mill, so I could save my hands the effort of peeling. I could have done it for all of them, but since I had told you to peel the others, I was don't be a dick.
Well, you can always do whatever you need to do for your hands, Gretchen. It's okay.
No, that makes me a dick, okay? Having that chronic disease makes me a dick.
Well, our society.
It's fucking true.
Yeah, man.
She also says to make sure that you put potatoes back in the pan to dry. this is not uncommon. I actually seen a lot of mashed potatoes that do that. And it is always good to kind of let some of the steam escape before you start adding your other ingredients, just so that you get a little more lift to your potato.
Sure. So you're saying she's the only one who specifically recommended after you boil it and strain it, you put it back in that hot pot, probably with no heat though, or low heat, and just try to take out all of that moisture right away.
Low heat.
Low heat. Okay.
Oh, so okay. This is why this is an extra step. Sorry, I failed to appreciate exactly what she had put in here. But you want to not just put them in the pot and leave them. You have to shake the pot vigorously for 1 minute.
Woo.
Oh, sorry, gently, not vigorously.
Oh, phew. Okay.
Whew. Don't vigorously shake hot potatoes.
That's a much faster minute than.
Yeah. And then it's just add other stuff for the most part.
So slight differences, but so far things are pretty similar.
Yes.
Okay. I'll read the buttermilk one and then can you talk us through the Kenji one?
Of course.
Okay. So the one we're both doing again, Williams Sonoma, buttermilk and chive. This one we've opted to only use Yukon Gold. They said russet, but we're experimenting. So that's what we decided. These potatoes are going to be peeled and cut, and that's 5 pounds of potatoes, 3/4 cup of buttermilk, and 1/2 cup of half and half. So a combo of liquid dairies there. And in particular, like we said, we're really excited about the buttermilk piece.
Mm-hmm.
And then 8 tablespoons or 1 stick of unsalted butter. And then this has a lot of chives, 3/4 cup of finely chopped chives. And then fresh ground white pepper and 2 teaspoons of kosher salt plus more to taste.
So speaking of this recipe from Williams Sonoma, we need to turn on our pot for this batch. So let's go turn on that pot.
Okay.
I will read through the ingredients for the Kenji recipe real quick because we have a couple additional steps for that guy.
Yes. The only thing I wanted to call out before we moved on from the buttermilk one, the Williams Sonoma one, is that this is the only one that said bring to a boil over medium high heat and then to reduce the heat to medium low and simmer until the potatoes are tender. They suggest 15 to 20 minutes. All of the other ones we saw said boil and stay boiling until the potatoes are cooked. So this is the only one that's kind of funny.
It's just fucking boiling potatoes, for the love of Pete. Why make it hard? I got to make it worth it somehow, I guess, that they're Williams Sonoma. They might know something.
They do recipe test a lot. But yeah, that's the only big difference. And then this one says ricer or food mill. So
that's where we're at with the ricer and food mill. So
tell me about Kenji here.
I'll tell you about Kenji. We had to get a Kenji recipe in here, of course. There are other mashed potato recipes on Serious Eats, by the way. This is just because love Kenji. Love him. Love his recipes.
You love his science too. And
I do.
He tests so many iterations of the recipe that it's such solid guidance. I think you appreciate that.
I do. Because I would love to take the time to test out 3 different ways of cutting up the potatoes to make mashed potatoes. But I'm not doing that. That's not what I'm getting paid for.
Right.
So the ingredients for Kenji's potatoes is 4 pounds of russet potatoes peeled and cut into 2-inch pieces. Then 2 cups of whole milk, 12 tablespoons of unsalted butter. Gotta love how much butter is in this.
Right.
I will note that a lot of the 2 of the reviews on this, because this was advertised as ultra fluffy potatoes, I think there's supposed to be a step in here where he says add milk to the consistency of your liking, and he doesn't really have that terminology in there because some people were like, it's too much liquid. So there may be missing a step in the instructions. And that's
our most liquid one. Yeah.
So I just wanted to note that before I got into all of the extra steps on what Kenji says is the best process for ultra fluffy potatoes. Mm-hmm. And his number one thing, your enemy here, is starch. And this is true because even if you overwork starch in potatoes, even though it's not like gluten or something like that, it can make throw off the texture of your potatoes. So he's not wrong. Sounds like I'm going to say, but he's wrong about this. No, he's right about that is what I should say. Starch makes a big difference. So we are going to rinse our peeled and cut potatoes a couple of times until the water runs clear. And then we're going to boil them until they're tender. Once they're fully cooked, we will rinse them under hot water for 30 seconds. I read this recipe like 6 times today.
30 seconds. Yeah.
Yeah, 30 seconds. And then using a ricer or food mill over the empty pot or over the empty pot, pass potatoes through and add in your fats and tasty stuff. This is very basic. And this is very similar in the America's Cookbook. I did look at the recipe. Pretty much as close to either Kenji's or, well, minus the extra rinsing stuff, but probably the closest to the Williams-Sonoma recipe, since it was mostly just boil potatoes, put milk and butter in them, salt and pepper, eat.
Yeah. And Kenji does say black pepper. He loves black pepper on this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
Williams-Sonoma buttermilk is white pepper. Kenji ultra fluffy is black pepper. The other two, mine said no prep, just said pepper, and I don't see pepper on yours. Oh yeah, it's a freshly cracked black pepper.
Yeah, they were recommending it as like a garnish. So I'm gonna rinse my Kenji potatoes.
Okay.
My potatoes have been sitting peeled in water here, so I'm actually just gonna really give them a stir in this water and then drain that.
Okay, I'll do the same.
Getting a lot. He says until the water runs clear. I'm gonna do one more rinse on mine just to be safe.
Oh, it's pretty clear.
Yeah, even my first rinse didn't have a ton of cloudiness to it.
Okay, and then are we starting that last potatoes,
Yes,
the Kenji ones? Okay.
Yeah.
And I got to add salt to that too.
Well, I finished my drink. I guess it was tasty.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Oh, I was going to say Kenji also was the only one who specified a specific amount of water. Everyone else just said like 1 inch to 3 inches to cover the potatoes. And I think he said like 4 quarts or something.
Oh, wow. Oh, his was also the only one that we weren't starting the potatoes in cold water.
Oops.
Yeah. Oh, well.
Yeah. I mean, too late now.
Yeah.
Well, and I don't know if you actually ended up saying this. You had shared with me earlier that you think mashed potatoes like shouldn't really even have a recipe, kind of.
Nope, I don't. I just because I've done so much mashed potato in my life, I don't need a recipe. I just do it by feel, which is a funny way to put it, but I guess it really is more by taste than feel. But everything's looking over there so far.
So after a quick break, things are looking good. My Better Homes and Gardens Gruyere one with the mixed potatoes is a royal and boiling over here. And I turned my Williams-Sonoma one down, the buttermilk one, since that was the one that said bring to a boil and then lower.
I unfortunately don't have quite enough pots for this to be the pots to have enough room in my pot. So the Williams-Sonoma one is in a rather small pot. So I'm trying to keep it under control over here.
Same for me. That's my smallest one.
Glad we can be so connected on these things.
And what texture are you usually hoping for? A fork goes all the way through, cuts it in half, a fork sticks a teeny bit in there.
You're really going for fork pretty much can just smash right through it. You want it to be as easy to fall apart as possible. You don't have to cook the fuck out of it, but how's your first batch looking?
Actually, pretty done. I have a couple of bigger chunks and it's still going through. They're not kind of like breaking in half, but maybe just a couple more minutes and then I'll pull them.
I'm going to give mine like 2 more minutes.
Okay.
Mine, I'm supposed to heat the milk. Yeah. And the butter. Okay. Milk and butter. Since I have such a small amount of both of those things, because we are not making full recipes here.
Yeah, I guess we didn't say that yet. Another thing we've made super complicated for ourselves is that because we're doing 3 recipes each, we're fourthing to thirding to halving these recipes. Not only are we making 3 different types ourselves, but we're also trying to calculate these like reduced versions. It's been really complicated. Like what? Man.
Why do we keep doing this to ourselves?
I know. I'm just saying it out loud. Like, what the fuck? We had to make like a giant comparison grid because it was so confusing.
And I offered, but you were like, no. And then you're like, I did it.
And then I was like, I can't, I don't understand what we're talking about. We spent a lot of time prepping for this one too. We were like very prepared.
But let's also say that as I've been on my edible thing this week, on Wednesday, I ate an edible that I did not make and ended up getting very high right before our meeting, or like right in the middle, like right as our meeting was starting / through our meeting, I was like going up on the little
I forgot
roller coaster.
Yes,
I was so high. And then I was trying to find potatoes and on Food and Cooking, and for the life of me could not spell or figure out potatoes. And then 2 days later, I realized that I was trying to spell potatoes P-A-T-A-T-O-S.
Oh my God.
Which is,
I almost spelled it out that night too, but then I was like, don't be condescending, Rebecca. Like,
no, you probably should have just condescended. I'm going to go with my.
Okay, let's go. Operation Potato mash off. First one getting drained. Where are my oven mitts? Fuck.
I turned my heat down to low, dumped my taters, dumping them back in the pot.
Okay.
Oh no, I messed up.
Uh-oh.
No, I guess I didn't really mess up. Sort of messed up. I'm doing my shaking over heat.
Your minute of soft shaking.
Yes.
I'm straining over here. Ooh, that's a lot of hot boiling water.
I think my next round of potatoes will be done fairly quickly here. Not as quickly as I'd like, but now I'm just going to lift these potatoes back out of the pan. My milk mixture is excessively warm now, which means it's boiling, and I didn't really need to do that.
Also, I'm supposed to have also simultaneously been heating up butter and garlic, which I have not done. So I got to do that.
Like, this food mill is going to make it so easy, but not being as easy as I was thinking it was going to be. So I'm pouring my milk mixture into the food mill.
Okay.
Hoping that'll help loosen up some of my tater here. That's clearly not working. All right, now I'm wishing I just mashed these in the pot.
All right, catch me up. What are you working on right this second?
I am food milling my give me some oven potatoes.
Okay, and you're wishing you had
mashed them in the pot, yeah.
Okay.
So I was like, I'll save my hands, but no, it's just like not going through the food mill.
Oh, bummer.
I mean, it is. It's just a lot slower than I thought it would be. So this is one of those times when I'm like, potato ricer might have been superior since it's just pushing things through.
Yes. Although you do sometimes have to push kind of hard if the potato's not all the way cooked. Sometimes I'm a fan of peeling before it goes in the ricer because it can be kind of tough to get that peel out and stuff. Not a huge deal, but wanted to mention.
Honorable mention.
We have to do our honorable mentions of recipes too, because we both picked like 4 recipes each or something.
I think at least one of mine was America's Test Kitchen, which, really wasn't much different than any of these other guys.
Sure.
We did find one that was like a baked potato, mashed potato thing, but decided that was too far away from the mashed potato
purpose.
Purity. Yeah, purpose.
Yes, we saw a couple that looked delicious. The baked potato one that you're talking about, which was basically twice baked potatoes, but without the potato peel shell. So you add cheddar, bacon, like Gretchen said, and we were both like, yes, absolutely, yes. And then probably doesn't make sense for this one. But we saw roasted garlic, which would be delicious, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Wasabi. Okay, maybe
with a steak,
ginger?
like with a
ginger, maybe.
I'm not with you on the ginger, but
no,
I'll support your desire to go there.
Totally.
It's just not where I'm at.
No, I hear you.
Potatoes.
What are your Williams Sonoma buttermilk and chive potatoes looking like? Mine are probably pretty close to done, but I have to still. Oh my God, I got to finish my sauce for the Better Homes and Garlic one before I can rice my potatoes into it. But I think my other potatoes are ready to go. So, oh my God.
If your other ones are ready,
strain them and leave them for a bit.
Yeah, mine are also ready.
Okay, wow, we're like at the same timing. That is rare. Look at us. 35 episodes later.
I'm doing my last mix on my give me some oven potatoes. These look
okay,
pretty.
All your ingredients are in.
Mm-hmm. A little more salt. I'm gonna put some more butter in there because I think it needs it.
Okay. I'm with you. I was feeling like some of these, I just don't think it's enough butter. And
Oh, I'm always gonna add more butter. Don't fool yourself, woman. You're gonna put more butter in there.
and this is why you say just go with it with mashed potatoes.
Exactly. Oh, these look lovely.
Okay. I have a lot of things happening. I am starting to rice my first batch from my mixed potatoes, Better Homes and Garden. Sorry for all the noise.
I am just gonna warm up my Williams Sonoma dairies, the liquid dairy.
Okay.
I'm just finishing up my give me some oven ones. Still needed a little bit more salt. Could have salted the butter a bit more, but I've got all my dairy. Flavor is good.
Check on one recipe.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that tastes pretty good. I'm starting to mill my Williams Sonoma ones.
Okay, I just added my cheese and milk mixture to my potatoes on my Better Homes and Gardens one. I added more butter to my Better Homes and Gardens one.
Okay. It was like 2 tablespoons and this much potato. That's just not enough.
Not for me.
How are you going along over there?
I'm good. I'm kind of like not exactly following the Williams Sonoma thing. So it's okay.
Who cares? This is high gluttony. We do what we want.
Exactly. I think my Kenji potatoes will be done pretty soon.
I should check mine. Yeah, mine are almost pretty much there. Yeah, never again with the food mill. Not for mashed potatoes.
Not so much. Now we know that.
Especially if you're trying to like dry out the potatoes. Like I think it's a lot more efficient if if it's something that has some moisture to it.
Okay.
I think I can kind of confirm that theory since I just put my milk onto my potatoes and they're like, yay!
Thank you.
I like the smell of that buttermilk. Putting my butter in, putting the chives in, giving the food mill a rinse.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna drain my Kenji potatoes.
I'm gonna stir my Williams Sonoma potatoes here. Sort of interesting. The Yukon Golds look particularly grainy compared to the other ones.
Interesting.
I might put a little more buttermilk in here. Still quite firm. More butter. More butter, more butter, more butter.
More butter, more salt for me across the board.
Oh yeah, I don't bother with salt measurements. That's
what is the point?
So I'm about to drain my Kenji potatoes. Let's see, I've got to get hot water going here. All right, going for the mill.
Okay, we both drained our Kenji potatoes and washed them or rinsed them with hot water for 30 seconds.
Oh, hello. Soft, warm butter.
Hello.
Putting it in with my potatoes to see if that helps. Part of the problem I've got going over here is I'm missing the handle for my food mill, so I can't push down on the handle.
Oh no.
And it's like, why is this so hard? And I was like, oh, because I'm not able to put any like force behind me when I'm drilling down. I fixed my own problem here. Grabbed an oven mitt and just plopped it down on the handle. This helps a lot.
Yay. On the last batch.
Yeah, can't figure that out too soon.
And then Kenji's is just add milk and butter and stir with a rubber spatula, right?
Yes. But remember to not throw all the milk in at once, maybe.
Okay. And butter first seems to be important.
Yes. Well, I don't know if it's important, but it does seem to be noted.
Okay.
Fully milled over here, adding my probably insufficient amount of butter. More salt. And I'm going to add half of my milk.
Okay.
That was slightly more than half my milk.
I've been adding it kind of slowly, and I have to say, these are really beautiful and fluffy.
They are really beautiful.
They're all beautiful in their own way. And these are ultra fluffy, like you promised.
They really are. They do seem to be in my opinion, slightly easier to get my spatula through.
Mm-hmm.
I finally got enough salt in there. Good go on me.
A little more salt for me, a little more butter.
Yeah, this is the first one that had enough butter. Both of the other ones only called for 2 tablespoons. I know I put in 3. I'm pretty sure I put in at least a 4th.
Mm-hmm.
This is the only one that had 4 as the original recipe, and almost might be enough. I could add a little more if I really wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
As far as camera ready, beautiful mashed potatoes, Kenji's is leading the pack here so far.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Oh, I like the garlic hit.
They're all good.
Yeah, I gotta say, I think I might be Kenji's. Give me some oven. And then my last place is the Williams Sonoma, but not for flavor, just because I think that I might be sold on just doing russets from here on out. Because I think that the russet texture is superior. But
okay, I'm eating. Let's sit and talk about potatoes and more potatoes and then give our final thoughts.
Yeah.
That was a tornado.
Yeah.
And we were supposed to cover, well, we wanted to talk about a few other important things, and then things just went from 0 to 60 in 1 second, basically. So I wanted to hear from you, Gretchen, a little bit about potatoes in general and starch. And we've talked a lot about potatoes in the past, especially with our Duchess potatoes episode, right?
Yeah. So we have covered potatoes quite a bit. I don't know that I have a whole lot more territory to cover here other than just saying that the type of potato makes a big difference. And now I might be completely sold on russets only as the superior mashing potato. Don't know how you're feeling, but I think all those recipes might be right.
I'm conflicted. I think for me, the Yukon Gold on its own is out, I think. But I'm torn either between the mix or the only russet. And it's hard to know because what that means is we're comparing our individual wild card to Kenji's. And Kenji's was the only one that rinsed those multiple times. So I can't really tell for sure if it's just the potato or if that extra starch release step is what I'm preferring. So I don't know for sure.
That's fair, because that's an excellent point that there are other factors as well, because I do think that I agree that I also would probably lean either towards just russets or a mixture, because I did like the mix. The mix is nice.
That leads me to the question, though, about the role starch plays in mashed potatoes, and what does like the potato structure itself have to do with the ultimate result?
Well, it depends on the type of the cell type. So the waxy potatoes, they have a more intense starch structure, I believe, is part of that. And that's why they don't usually recommend making like red bliss mashed potatoes, those types of potatoes, because the cells don't naturally want to break away from each other. And so you have to work a lot harder to get them to break up, which is another drawback. And so the structure on a russet or a Yukon Gold, and I think russet has the most folly apart cells of all the potatoes.
Sorry, real quick. When you say waxy potato, that's our Yukon Gold, right?
No, so Yukon Gold, I always thought Yukon Golds were waxy, but they're apparently somewhere between waxy, and the other sort of end of the spectrum is mealy potatoes, which I think is a terrible word. Like, I'm like, that just makes them sound gross. It does have some of those easy break apart cells, but like slightly more starch than the russet potato. I'm not sure the name of like a red waxy potato, but like white potatoes typically are a little bit more of a waxy potato. Your blue and purples tend to actually be more of a mealy potato. They have a later structure. So you technically could do mashed potatoes with those because they have that mealier structure. I just don't know how most people feel about purple mashed potatoes that are really blue. They're never really that purple. I've eaten purple mashed potatoes before. Somebody's done it. Somebody has to have done it.
Sure. It sounds fun, but like unnecessary.
Yeah. That's the major thing, is how much starch is in those cell walls and how easily do they fall apart. The more fall apart, the more surface area you have for your butter and your milk and stuff to kind of get in there and coat all those particles, and thus leading to a superior mashed potato.
I love it.
Now I could really go down a rabbit hole of like talking about Kenji's experiments and like how the interesting ones, but I wasn't sure how up for like having me go down that rabbit hole you were at this point.
Well, maybe a quick one. We obviously know he settled on double rinsing.
Right. Well, I was more intrigued by the fact that he did 3 different trials for how finely he cut up the potato, because he was trying to see how much starch he could get released. And that he tried grating the potato and doing like a smaller dice, like 1-inch size potatoes, and then like a larger chunk potato. And the 1-inch dice to the larger chunk, they were pretty much the same But the potato he grated after he rinsed it, for some reason, it ended up with all these little like hard things that were in it. And that's actually because there's pectin in potatoes. So our friend pectin is back. So that's why I wanted to talk about this. I was like, oh, pectin is back.
Pectin is everywhere.
And since there are a lot of calcium ions in potatoes, remember using the Pomona's pectin, you had that calcium, the calcium added water I added. So that actually works towards activating that pectin. So what had happened when he grated it is that he washed so much of the starch away that it exposed the pectin and exposed that pectin to the various the calcium ions, because he'd broken all the cells so much that he also exposed it to that. So like that calcium goes a long way to strengthening the pectin. And so he was creating this reaction between those calcium ions and the pectin. So it was actually like chunks of pectin. So once he had cooked it to a certain point, that pectin just like activated and then turned into little like rock hard chunks, which I just thought was so fascinating, because I was like, I never think about like there being pectin in potatoes. That was sort of an interesting point that he made, in my opinion.
Definitely. And I don't think I would ever imagine finding something crunchy or hard in my potato. So that is so interesting to think that it exists in there. It just has to get activated in a certain way. And it's just like, no, I'm a hard shell now.
Just that something that I found really interesting is that, I hadn't really thought about that there was pectin in potatoes, but that you would be able to produce that sort of texture because you've just taken too much of the starch out, and it just makes everything bad. Like, you got to have balance. It's all about the balance.
Always. Isn't it always?
And another point is just to be sort of a bit gentle. If you ever come across a recipe that says make it in a food processor, according to Kenji, that is a horrifically bad idea. So I'm not even willing to attempt to see what would happen. But I'm guessing it sort of turns it and makes it into like that, like really drastic, like gloppy kind of potato. Probably not. No, nobody wants that.
Nobody wants that. Nobody wants a glumpy potato.
No.
We discussed our preference for potato combo or lack of. What about taste? Where did you land on your taste preference of the three we made?
I mean, you can't argue with a classic potato, but I love the garlic in the give me some oven potatoes. So I would definitely keep doing that. Cooking the garlic with the potatoes really gets it like in there deep. So it's kind of just this really nice, perfectly blended in flavor to the potatoes. So I love that. And I like the
cream cheese.
I can't really tell that the cream cheese is in there. Like, I might even have to go with a higher like I went to the high end of my scaled recipe, because essentially I was going to put 1 to 2 ounces, and I was like, you're going to put 2 full ounces of cream cheese in your batch. Like,
right. Why even start with 1? But, we'll put it on there.
Yeah.
Just in case.
Just in case. So I think I need more cream cheese to be able to be like, okay, yeah, I like the cream cheese. I just don't. The garlic is what really stood out in that recipe, because it was the more unusual thing. I did like the flavor of the Williams Sonoma potatoes. So I think I like that buttermilk, but I also like putting sour cream in my mashed potatoes. That's the other thing that I like to do. Just the buttermilk was a bit of I don't know that I've done that before.
Yeah, I think so. My wild card one had garlic also, but I added it minced at the end and just mixed it in with the hot potatoes and I think whole milk. And I found it to be too much. I don't want to taste that much raw garlic. I think at the end, it's a bit overwhelming for me, to the point that that's the one that had the Swiss cheese in it, and I barely taste the Swiss cheese.
Oh, wow.
And so maybe I was just using big cloves, but I think now that I think about it, I don't know if I adjusted the garlic amount.
Oh, probably not.
Okay, that explains.
Because I think it was 2 cloves, because mine was also 2 cloves, and I did use the full amount.
Right.
Actually, I used 3.
Right.
I used 3 cloves in mine.
In the boiling water. So I will do that next time, though, because I want some garlic there, I think, but I don't want it like that. But then I did really like the buttermilk a lot. I kind of like the chive. It was kind of a fun change for me. I was worried I wouldn't want that much chive like mixed in,
Mm-hmm.
but I kind of like it.
Me too. I like how much green it adds. So that,
Yeah.
because I was also thinking I'd like to add, and I know this won't be up your alley at all, but some parsley to the mix too would be good.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe
Mm-hmm.
not in your opinion, obviously, but
Not for me, but I hear you. Yeah. So I guess I can't make any like grand statements today, but I can say that I will do some combination of these three in the future.
I mean, that's really all it comes down to most of the time. I do think I'll work on keep the rinsing thing. That seems to be working. Not sure if I'm completely sold on the rinsing after it's cooked. Like that feels a little unnecessary to me. And I'm probably gonna go full russet mashed potatoes from here on out. I don't
Cool.
Yeah, I guess not grand declarations, but some opinions have shifted on my mashed potato game.
You used to be an exclusively Yukon Gold mashed potato person, right?
I know. Yeah.
So
Times are changing.
times are changing. Oh, isn't that the truth? So in the Great Potato Mash-Off, russet is probably superior for us, and maybe a combo, but mostly russet.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe rinse after you cut and peel, but before you boil. And then whatever tastes good. That's any version of dairies, as long as it's a couple cups.
Yeah. More is always better. It's always a more is better situation.
Yeah. And we used way more salt than any of them called for, which was a piddly amount. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So
a quarter teaspoon on one of those. I was like, what's the fucking point then? That's not even salting these potatoes.
That is an insulting amount of salt.
Oh my gosh. We will post our recipes, our thoughts at highgluttony.com.
Follow and like us on the socials or at High Gluttony on Instagram and Facebook. I think that covers everything for now.
Wow, we did it.
Woo. All in one go. No time traveling required.
No time traveling this time. Yeah. We tasted everything right away. The joy and the curse of mashed potatoes.
And our total cook time was about an hour, even doing 3 different batches. So that's pretty impressive.
I'm proud of us.
Yeah, me too.
And now we get to eat a bunch of potatoes. Yeah. Long distance high five. And now we get to put ourselves into a potato coma.
And I can make the honorable mention twice baked mashed potatoes for later.
Yeah, I have some Yukon Golds left over, and I'm like definitely doing the cheddar and twice and bake them on that one.
Yeah. Yeah, that's happening.
All right. Thanks for joining us, Gluttoneers.
Goodbye.
Off we go.
Off we go. Clap, 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 clap.
Clap, clap. Clap, clap.